actually have notes today. She came prepared. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. April is over, so this is going to be my April reading wrap up and then my TBR for May. Can't believe it's May already. Time is going by so fast. This month I read a total of 8 books. This is my reading journal. Kind of want to give you guys like a little sneak peek into my reading journal just because I think it's so useful and I actually love it so much. So for each book I can basically put the title, the author, and then all this little information like how many pages it is, the genre, and then you get like a little bracketing system for what your overall rating is, and then the day you started it, the day you finished it, and then it asks you these questions, and then you have a page for like your thoughts or quotes. And then I always print out a little version of the book so I can like physically see it. I don't know, I just like to do that. Anyways, this is a reading journal. Love it so much. So this is what I use to keep track of all of my books. I don't know why I suddenly felt like showing this to you, but I did. And also it has like other sections where there's like a reading challenge. So I have a reading challenge to read 40 books this year, and I'm already 90% of the way, which is exciting. Like I was saying, I read 8 total books this month, which is pretty good in my opinion. I think last month I only read 6. I read a little bit more than last month. I did actually DNF a book this month, which I've never done. I will get into that, but the first book I read in April is called Ghost by Dolly Alderton. She also wrote Everything I Know About Love, which is a memoir by her. I've spoke about it in a different video. I think it was my first YouTube video I ever posted. I absolutely loved that book. It's a memoir, so it's about her life. This book is fiction though. So this book is contemporary romance fiction, and my overall rating for this book was 3.5 stars. So pretty decent rating in my opinion. I didn't get like this crazy feeling where I loved it so much. Like when I read her other book, Everything I Know About Love, I like was so obsessed with it. I loved it so much. I did not get the same feeling when reading this, but this book was still really good. I actually have notes today. She came prepared. So this is a contemporary romance book, and it's basically about this girl named Nina. It's about kind of like her being single in her 30s, kind of getting into dating apps and thinking she like thought she would already be married by now, and like a lot of her friends are already married and have kids now, and she's like, when is it gonna be my turn? So it's kind of about her struggling with that aspect of her romance life, and then also it's kind of like I said, it's about like the trials and tribulations of finding the one and kind of feeling like you're behind in life because all your friends are kind of settling down and you're not in the same place as them. So it's kind of about her struggles with that, and then also there's a lot of stuff with like her relationship with her parents and her friends, and like her parents are getting older and she's kind of having to take on the role of taking care of her parents now. I really enjoyed this. It was really funny. It was really fast read. It's pretty short. I would recommend this if you like romance. It wasn't like your typical romance book. There was a lot of like extra little subplots, which I enjoyed. And the main character is British because Dolly Alderton is British, so she writes about British people. I thought it was really good and funny. So yeah, we started off on a good note for April with that book. So the next book I finished was Twisted Lies. So this is the final book in the Twisted series. I'm so happy I'm finally done with this series. It's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I did not like this series at all, which is honestly like a kind of an unpopular opinion. These books are very hyped up on TikTok. So I actually rated this 3 stars, which I feel like I need to go lower with that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that now. I think I would give this like 2.5 stars, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. So yeah, 4th and final book in the Twisted series. There's a fake dating trope in this, billionaire trope, forced proximity, because she ends up moving in with the guy in this book. So there's honestly good tropes. Like, I like a lot of those tropes, but I just don't like this author's writing. I find it super cringy. A lot of the male characters in her books are, like, just not it. I don't like them at all. I get the ick from them. So I honestly did not enjoy this series. I would say this book and one's probably, like, the most bearable out of the four. Otherwise, like, honestly, not a fan. Really not a fan. Again, I think I'm changing my rating to 2.5 stars for this. Since I did not enjoy this series, I am already selling these books on my Depop. I'm selling all 4 of them. I'm selling them all separately just because, I don't know, I feel like that's the best way to go. So if you want to buy these from me, I'm going to link my Depop in the description. I did do a tiny bit of annotating in some of them. By annotating, I mean underlining with a pen and highlight, but very little, like very little. So that's the only, like, downside if you don't want to buy, like, a used book that's a little bit annotated. Otherwise, they're, like, in perfect condition. So if you want to buy those from me, please do, because I just don't need them in my collection. I'd rather someone have them that actually, like, will enjoy them. The next book I read in April was going to read is The Idiot, and this is a journal fiction book, and I DNF'd it. Yep, I've never DNF'd a book before, because, you know, it's just not, I usually force myself to read something because, like, I paid money for it, and, you know, all that, but I just couldn't. Let me see my notes for this book. Literally no plot. Couldn't get past page 100. Writing was like a continuous stream of consciousness. So yeah, I did not like this plot. You were just, like, basically in the main girl's head, and it just felt so all over the place, and it felt like nothing was happening. Yeah, I'm not really gonna get into what it's about because I clearly didn't finish. There's a lot of, like, mixed reviews about this book on Goodreads, which I should have looked more into it before I bought it, but whatever. So that's the book I DNF'd in April. Then I was like, you know, I need to start something that I'm, like, excited to read. Like, I kind of was in a slump after that because I didn't like the last Twisted book, and then I DNF'd that book. So I was like, you know what will, like, make me feel good, I think? The Divergent series. You know, I said I wasn't gonna read all 4 books in my last wrap-up and my TBR, like, my TBR for April. I was like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna read all 4 of these books, you know, because they're kind of thick, and, like, I didn't know if I was gonna want to commit to the whole series, you know, but you guys, I read the whole series. The next 4 books I read in April were the Divergent series. And again, you guys are probably like, why are you reading a series from 2012? So the thing is, I never read these books, but I really enjoyed the movie. So I was like, I was rewatching the movies a couple months ago, and, you know, I was like, I've never read these books. I should read them, you know, because these movies are based on the book, so I should do that. So I bought this beautiful, like, Kate box set of all 4 books. Let me give you my rating. So the first book in the Divergent series is just called Divergent, and I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed how you had more insight on the romance aspect, like, compared to the movie. The romance was not, you didn't get that much insight into it in the movies, which I feel like is good because it would have overshadowed, you know, the whole plot if that took up too much of the movie. But I think it's great that they showed more of the romance in the book because there's just more room for that, and it didn't feel like there was too much of it. There was just the right amount, and I really felt more connected to the characters because of that. It made me enjoy the progression of Triss and Ford's relationship more because you got more insight on how their relationship worked. So yeah, if you don't know, these are YA dystopian books, and they came out in, like, 2011, 2012, 2013. The second book, which is Insurgent, I gave this 3.5 stars. I felt like it was a little longer than it needed to be, but I still enjoyed it. These are, even though these are kind of thick, they're super easy to read because they're YA, and the letters are just really big, and I don't know, I feel like I got through these quickly. So again, I enjoyed the progression of Tris and For's relationship, and I was really entertained because there was, obviously, it's very action-packed, and I was surprised to notice that there were a lot of things in this book that weren't included in the movie, which honestly I'm not mad about how the movie's different from the books, because I just feel like you can't include everything that's in this book into the movie. I think the movies were done very well. But yeah, there is a lot of differences, which was fine. And then we got to the final book, which is Allegiant, and I gave this 4 stars. I just really like how it all wrapped up. I thought it was done really well. I was still very entertained, which I feel like is hard. I thought it was kind of going to be hard for me to be entertained because it is like dystopian and action-packed, but there was like honestly so much more romance than I was expecting. Like I said, she did a really good job of like including the romance in these books, doing it in a tasteful way, and it wasn't like super overbearing. It was just the right amount, and I got more insight into the romance than the movies, which I liked. What I really, really enjoyed about this book, why I gave it 4 stars, is because you get the perspective of 4 in this book as well as Tris, which I thought it made me so happy. I just like when you get dual point of views. So yeah, you were really able to see in 4's mind because you got his perspective, and yeah, I think that's why I really enjoyed the final book, was because it was a dual point of view. So the final book is going to be 4, which there's only 3 movies, and this 4th book is kind of like an extra bonus like material, I would say. This is kind of about 4's backstory, so Tobias, and you also get like little snippets of like when he first meets Tris and kind of like some of his first encounters with Tris from his point of view, which you don't get in the first book because the first book's just from Tris's point of view. So I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was great to end the series off on, and it gave me more insight on 4, which I liked. I rated this one 4 stars. Okay, so I think overall I would rate this series 4.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed how there was a lot more romance in it than I was expecting, because like I said, in the movies there is a romance, but you don't really get to, like, you're not in the minds of the characters and you don't really know what they're feeling. Super fast paced, easy to read because it was YA. Really entertaining, like action packed, and then also the romance aspect was really good. Then after that I read Magnolia Parks. If you watched my last video, I did a haul of 10 books I bought that I've been wanting for a while, and this is one of the books I bought. This is Magnolia Parks. It's the first book in the Magnolia Parks series, right? Magnolia Parks / Daisy Hates series. So this book follows wealthy British group of friends, and it's mainly, or it is told from this perspective of this girl named Magnolia Parks and her ex-boyfriend BJ, which I hate that that's his name. Like, I can't tell you the amount of times I was reading and I was like, why is that his name? Why does he go by that? I just don't like it. Anyways, check the trigger warnings before you read this. I actually really enjoyed this. I did. Okay, so this was super drama filled. BJ and Magnolia are both toxic in their own ways, but since you get perspectives from both of them, you just like really see the love they have for each other and why they like love each other so much. They have a history together. They are no longer together in this present time, but they're still very close. So as you can imagine, it's a pretty toxic relationship. I'm not gonna say why their relationship ended because it's a big part of the book and I don't want to spoil it. So yeah, trying to explain before, like, the relationship is toxic and like Magnolia and BJ are both toxic, but BJ is kind of like the problem. Something he did is the reason why him and Magnolia are no longer together, and like I said, you find that out in the book. But since you're getting perspectives from both BJ and Magnolia, I felt like I was in both of their minds. Like, I don't know, that's the only way I can describe it. Like, I really felt the love he has for Magnolia. It's just very realistic. Obviously, not every relationship is perfect. It sucks because you really grow to, like, so hard to explain. Like, I really got to see how much BJ loves Magnolia, so that kind of made you fall in love with his character. But then you are falling out of love with his character because you find out what he does. Like I said, it's very drama filled, it was really fast paced in my opinion. Like, I was eating it up. In my notes in my book, I wrote insane, drama filled, so entertaining. Writing was so good. I really did enjoy the writing. I annotated the fuck out of this book. Just the way they talk about each other pains me. If you read this book, you know what I'm talking about. So the only downside of this is that there's 3 other books from this series, and you don't get the sequel to this book until you read the 3rd book in the series, because the 2nd book follows this girl named Daisy Hayes, which I thought she was best friends with Magnolia, but I found out in this book that she's not really friends with Magnolia. She's just kind of another rich person. She's not in Magnolia's friend group, but she is seeing someone in Magnolia's friend group. Yeah, the 2nd book follows Daisy Hayes' love story with someone in Magnolia's friend group, and then the 3rd book goes back to Magnolia and BJ, which I'm dying to get to. So I am going to order the other 3 books in the series, just not yet because I just spent a shitload of money on books. My overall rating for this book is 4.5 stars. A lot of people feel some type of way about this book, either love it or hate it. I honestly really loved it. I am not for toxic relationships, but I feel like this book was realistic. It's not that easy for someone to just stop loving someone even though they hurt you, and that's just realistic. Really good book, really good writing, drama filled. I really enjoyed it. And the final book I read in April was Vicious. I've had this book for so long, 2 years I think. Someone bought it for me and I finally picked it up. This book, I just finished this today. It is May 1st, but I'm including it in this wrap up because I started it on the 25th of April. So it kind of took me a minute to read this, but I just feel like I wasn't reading every day. That's why it took me a minute. But this book is fantasy science fiction, and it follows these 2 college students named Eli and Victor. There's 2 timelines in this book. 10 years ago, when Victor and Eli were in college together, them meeting and having classes together. It flip-flops between 10 years ago and present time. They're in this class together where they have to come up with a thesis. Eli wants his thesis to be on this thing called EOs, which stands for extraordinary, and it's basically about people that have superpowers, and he wants to make his thesis on that and do research on how people gain these superpowers and if it's real. He does some research and he thinks he finds out the reason why people are having these superpowers. So his research he does shows that people who have experienced near-death experiences are the ones who are gaining these superpowers. So since he finds that out, he tells his roommate and Victor's like, we should test it out, see if we get powers by having near-death experiences. And they do that. So I don't want to give too much away, but so this is written in 3rd person, which I don't really love when books are written in 3rd person, but this book was done well. It was super easy to read, super entertaining, and I enjoyed the double timeline. It was done really well. I wasn't confused or anything, and I enjoyed that part of it. They test out the theory and it kind of ruins their friendship. A big trope in this book is basically good versus evil. And the idea that maybe these people that have formed these superpowers, maybe they're a danger to society, or are they not a danger to society? It's kind of that question. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but I thought this was really good. Definitely not something I usually would go for, but I did enjoy it. I did not write down my rating yet in my book. What am I gonna rate this? I think I'm gonna rate it 4 stars. those are all the books I read in April, total of 8 books. I think this was my favorite. Now I'm gonna get into my TBR for May. So the first book I hope to read in May is High Fidelity, because it was in my TBR last month and I didn't get around to it. This follows a guy named Rob, and he works at a record store, and it's kind of about all the relationships he's had over the years, I think. I've seen the movie. Good movie. Anyways, then I hope to read All Roads Lead Here by Marianne Zapana. This is romance. One of my favorite romance authors. Been dying to read this ever since I bought it. Then I hope to read Pride and Prejudice, because I just know this is a lot of people's favorite classic romance novel, and I've never read it before. And I bought it a couple months ago, and I've been wanting to read it, so I hope to read this in May. The next book I hope to read in May is What My Mother and I Don't Talk About. It's about 15 writers and their experiences with their mother, I believe, so this is nonfiction. Then the final book I hope to read is Flawless, which is the first book in this Chestnut Spring series. I mean, I featured most of these books in my last video, which was a book haul. So yeah, if you want to watch that, if you haven't already, that was my last video. It's romance. So yeah, I feel like I have a good amount of romance, and I have 2 fiction books and the rest are romance. That's only 6 books, but I hope to read a couple more than 6 books this month. But I don't really want to have a lot of expectations for myself. I want to be able to pick up a couple other books that aren't on my TBR, you know? Leave some room for that. But those are all the books I hope to read in May. So this wraps up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me talk about all the books I read in April. Let me know if you've read any of those books, or if you've read any of the books in my TBR. I would love to know your opinions. That'll be all. I honestly don't know what my next video will be. I hope to release something before my next wrap up. I'm gonna brainstorm some ideas, but I'm not sure when my next upload will be or what it will be, but stay tuned, and thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you so much.